What's up, guys? Welcome to Coast to Coast. I'm back. I'm Robert Bentulin, joined by Mateo Mayorga. What's up, man?
It is good to be back, man. The summer is not so hard when you got, great fights going on like Terrence Crawford eviscerating Errol Spence Jr. You got great play in the WNBA. It's been one of my better summers without the NBA. How are you?
Yeah, man, I agree. We have baseball season. The Marlins, our home team Marlins, are not doing too well. They're losing a lot of games recently. It's hard when you have no NFL, no NBA, but we're getting through. Content slow, but once the NBA season starts ramping up, we'll have more stuff. I promise. With that said, man, we're gonna talk about Team USA, their expectations, the roster, what we should expect them, how far they can go this year. We're gonna talk about the NBA West. We're gonna talk about the Orlando Magic's donation to a certain fund, and then if we have time, we're gonna talk a little bit about the WNBA. So, with that said, man, let's get right into it. So, Team USA is getting ready. They're practicing, and there's a lot of I won't say contradiction, but there's a lot of, like, why is this guy on the team? Can we do better? You got guys like Bobby Portis, who's a pretty good role player. You got guys like Austin Reeves, who took a huge step this year at the Lakers, and you have higher tier players like Mikal Bridges, Anthony Edwards. The list goes on and on. So with that said, let's talk about the roster first. What do you think about Team USA's roster construction under Eric Spoelstra, Steve Kerr, and I forgot the other coach's name.
Teron Lue and Mark Few.
Ryan Lue and Mark Few. That's correct. Let me ask you this: what do you think about the coaching staff first? Obviously, we have
Oh,
our Miami Heat
I'm
guy.
so glad you went to that first. I think they're going to have much better instruction, Rob, than they had 4 years ago in the 2019 club, led under Greg Popovich, where they finished seventh place in the FIBA World Cup. It was a national embarrassment. Certainly, that team did not live up to its expectation. And better instruction, I think, they are top to bottom the deepest team competing in the cup. I get it. You don't see the names like Curry. You don't see LeBron. You don't see Kawhi. But listen, Brandon Ingram is an excellent player. Jaren Jackson is an excellent player. So is Paolo Banchero, an emerging, second year guy. They have enough, and the type of defensive principles that Spo and Kerr like to run. They like to throw out zones like madmen. I think they're actually going to return to, gold status under this, instruction of Team USA, Rob.
Yeah, you said it best. Obviously, everyone knows who Eric Spoelstra is simply because a lot of people that watch this podcast usually are Heat fans. We talk about Miami a lot, but we also diverge in a lot of other things. So, Steve Kerr, he's a very popular name. Everyone who follows the NBA knows who the Warriors is. He's a very good coach. He's won a lot of championships as a player and as a coach. Mark Few, for those of you guys that don't know, let's talk about him for a second. He is one of the better college coaches. He's never won the big game, but he's always in the tournament, always gets to the Final Four most of the time. He's been to a couple finals appearances, but just can't win. Just can't get over that hump of winning the national championship. But still, one of the best college coaches. He's really good at what he does for Gonzaga. And then we have Tyronn Lue, who's also an NBA champion as a coach. His coach LeBron James came back from that 3-1 deficit with the Kyrie shot and is an NBA champion. Arguably one of the top coaches in the NBA. So they really have a good coaching staff. This is a guy, this is really a new regime considering Greg Popovich is not there anymore. Coach K, who was there for a while, is not there anymore. So what do you think about Team USA just going a completely new direction with these coaches?
It's not just them, Rob. Like Colangelo is no longer running things. It's Grant Hill, and I want to point out something that the great Mark Stein pointed out this morning. Grant Hill works with the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young wanted to be on Team USA, and he was like, "Nah, you don't fit the mold of the team." Well, that's not what he said, but basically how I'm interpreting the situation. Trae Young apparently wasn't good enough to make this squad, or his play style, didn't fit it. Who knows if that could, potentially lead to hard feelings down the road. But the coaching staff is as solid as it gets, especially with Kerr leading the way and with these lieutenants on board. Kerr is a four-time NBA champion since the 2014-15 season. Eric Spoelstra is a back-to-back champion as a head coach and has another one as an assistant under Riley. And I think that's a big deal. He's won as an assistant. He's not somebody who like gets a fat head. He knows how to like, step back a bit. So like he's not going to try to like outshine Kurt. I don't think anybody there is going to try to outshine each other. So I think the guys like, Anthony Edwards, Jackson, Ingram, they're going to be learning from the best. And, when guys are around each other like this, it's kind of like being at the university level at academia. You're exposed to so many other different ideas that you end up becoming a better player.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the roster for a second. So let's be honest, man. It's not what it could be from years past. I mean, we're obviously we're not going to compare it to the dream team. That's like obviously the cream of the crop. But let's be honest. In the years past, we've seen some incredible teams. LeBron James hasn't been on this team in a while, but I don't want to say is this the weakest roster they've had in a while because it's NBA players and they're really good. But from my recollection, man, at least the last decade, I can't remember we're used to seeing Team USA with just a bunch of superstar all-star players. And this is really a new direction for Team USA. I have nothing against it. Sometimes you want guys that can mesh well. Maybe there's a reason Trae Young's not on the team. He has been surrounded in a lot of drama this past offseason. And if you look at this team, most of the guys on this team are just straight basketball players, no BS kind of guys. For example, Bobby Portis takes no BS, plays hard, rebounds, and never complains. You guys got like Mikal Bridges. He's turned into one of the better players in the league. He really took a step this year. He's made some big shots. When he got traded to Brooklyn, he really started taking another step, and he's become a good player. Austin Reeves, another guy, may not be a star, but he's turning into one of the better role players in the league. He just got that big contract. My point is, you got a bunch of guys who play hard. Josh Hart's another one. Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards. You got a bunch of guys that play hard. I think that's what they want, and it's no coincidence that Eric Spoelstra's in this team, and Steve Kerr is on coaching this team. And if you look at their recent track record of success, it's kind of the same kind of guys.
I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily. Like you're not seeing the creme de la creme. At the end of the day, every guy who's going for Team USA falls within the top 100 players in the NBA. Yeah. But, maybe you don't need the biggest stars all the time. And I think this, speaks volumes to, the dream team, the redeem team, the 2012 team, because literally those squads were all loaded and you got stars to really play like role players. And that's very difficult to do. I think that's one of the reasons the 2004 team in Greece did not win, and the Olympics. But listen, like you got to have guys like Bobby Portis who, maybe I'm not going to be the go-to scorer. Like that sometimes not sometimes in the NBA, he is not relied on to be the first, second, third scorer on his team. He's relied on getting offensive rebounds, keeping possessions alive, negating those for the opponent, setting hard screens and getting his teammates open. Team USA has a lot of these hard-nosed guys, and that's something I would like on my team. And to tell you the truth, I think they can win with this roster easily.
Yeah.
Hold on. I don't want to correct myself with the easily part. They can win. I don't want to disrespect the other countries of the world. Like as far as Group C, I don't think Greece, New Zealand, or Jordan could challenge the United States, Rob. But a team like Canada that has Shea Gilgeous.
I was going to bring them up in a second. We'll talk about them in about 2 minutes. But
for sure,
going back to your point, look, Josh Hart's a really nice role player. Bobby Portis is a nice role player. Walker Kessler took massive strides as a rookie. Was at one point in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Not legitimately to win it, but he was in the conversation. But just off the looks of this team, Mateo, the two guys I think that are really going to carry this team offensively, maybe you could say three, but the main two guys is going to be Edwards and Tyrese Halliburton. And obviously you have Ingram, who can score from the wing. Paolo Banchero's another guy. Jalen Brunson's there. But if you look at this team, man, they got two elite defenders in Jaren Jackson and Walker Kessler. And Mikal Bridges in that group too, but they got a bunch of really good defensive players, and they have a couple guys that can carry you at the end of the game offensively. So I like the roster.
I really like Jaren Jackson Jr. too, but his biggest problem at the NBA level is he picks up too many fouls. I think he was fourth in the league in
Yeah.
fouls per game average because he's a little bit too physical. The international style of play allows for more physical style, a more physical action. But truthfully, the leading scorer, man, it could be Anthony Edwards or Jalen Brunson. And I'm a real I think it could really be Ant-Man. He initially wasn't starting. It was reported this weekend, and I think that's one of the few suspect reportings that we've gotten about this team. And initially, Cam Johnson was there first, and that's a mistake. Anthony Edwards is a very physical player. As soon as he sheds the first line of defense and enters the lane, defenders kind of bounce off him like pinballs. And good for them that they corrected their mistake. But he is someone who I think is going to thrive in this type of environment. Who is a good candidate for leading scorer.
Yeah. Well said. That's on the roster. Now let's talk about guys who could really, or teams that could really, contend with Team USA to win it all. I think everyone's favorite pick, including mine as well, is Team US or Team Canada, I should say. Sorry, as Mateo mentioned earlier. For the simple reason of they have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He's an awesome player. For those people who don't know who he is or just don't follow it casually, it's he's one of the star players in OKC. Plays for a small market. Hint, by the way, he's my low-key MVP pick this year. Some decent odds. But back to Canada, he's a great player. He is a guy who can win. He is a guy. He's a dude. He is a guy that can carry at the end of the game and win you a game. But let's not forget guys like RJ Barrett. He's another one on that team, Canadian. You have Jamal Murray, who's Canadian. They have some players, man. So what do you think about this talented roster in Team Canada? This is the first time where people are really starting to talk about Canada in a different light.
They're scary. They don't have like top to bottom the depth, but just look at these names. Like you mentioned a few of them. Jamal Murray, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. That's the backcourt. Lou Dort. Do you remember? I'm sure you remember Kelly, the arm breaker Olynyk, a Heat legend, by the way. RJ Barrett. Listen, these guys can play. And basketball is 5-on-5. What if their instructor says, you know what, I'm gonna play my 2 or 3 main guys for the entire game, and it's those guys are Shea and Jamal Murray. Truthfully, they might be the 2 best players on the court. So that would be a very, challenging matchup for the United States. I think what would ultimately get them through it is, an incredible coaching staff that can implement, a bunch of zones like 2-2-1 presses to slow the ball down coming up the court, a 2-3 zone to, tempt the opponent to take bad shots from the outside. And when a lot of these are taken and missed, they also help you get out in transition. And here's the thing. A lot of these schemes are going to work because the Heat have the players, and like guys like Ingram, they're not just scorers. He's super long, and he can defend, and he can get into some quick offense, causing a rip or a block, and set up his teammates because he's also got great playmaking instinct. So listen, Canada by far is the team that could probably threat, or at least on paper, should threaten the United States the most. But respect to the defending champions in all of this, Spain. Too.
Yeah. Spain's another one. Obviously, they have great players. Another one's Team France. They have some nice players. Look, they have Nicolas Batum, Rudy Gobert, Evan Fournier. I mean, not like, oh my God, players, but, respectable team.
Continuity is a big deal, for sure.
Yeah. Spain always has great teams. They always compete. They're always going to have great teams every single year in this thing. So, any other teams that we should mention? Obviously, you have Germany. I believe Dennis Schroeder's on that team. You have a couple other, obviously Slovenia with Luka Doncic.
The wild card, Rob, and I think we can end it here is Greece if Giannis decides to suit up, because he had a medical procedure done this summer, and it's still uncertain if he's going to be ready to go. It's more in the no realm on that one, but you never know with him because he just likes to play so much and has played through pain in the past. So
yeah, considering what happened in the playoffs of Giannis, and considering they have legitimate championship aspirations, I would personally be very surprised if he plays in this FIBA. team.
Yeah.
But if he does, good for him, man. It's always fun when you see superstars playing. Luka Doncic is tearing it up right now. He's been awesome. Any last words on the FIBA before we move on, or Team USA, or anything you wanted to mention?
Yeah, one last thing on Team USA. Because Eric Spoelstra is there. This is kind of maybe like a mock Heat farm. Hear me out on this. Like everybody's kind of like waiting for the Dame Lillard domino to drop so they can get on with their lives. And he's not going to be there right now. And this is also where, him and Bam kind of, forged the relationship. But, I was kind of like thinking, could it be that someone, Rob, a very high caliber players, corners Spo and said, hey, forget him. Come get me. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to just let the audience ponder on that one, because Spo, in combination with Adebayo and Butler, as the eighth seeded Heat, led that unit to the first play-in group to make the finals. The league noticed. A lot of those players on this tour noticed, and they got a lot of respect for him.
By the way, to capitalize on that point before we move on, I will say this: the big three in Miami of Chris Bosh, LeBron James, and Dwayne Wade does not happen if Team USA doesn't have those players together. LeBron has personally come out and said that. Damian Lillard and other players have said that the Team USA is literally the best way to recruit players because you're with them all the time. There's no so-called punishments if you do something. So it is really the ultimate place to recruit. I'm not surprised. I don't think Spoelstra's there mainly for that, but I believe there's a tidbits of reasons why he's there, and maybe that's one of them. It's the ultimate way to recruit players, and you don't get in trouble. So good for Spoelstra. I think it's good for the Heat organization and for Heat fans. Gives you some reason to cheer for Team USA other than our country. So good for them, man. All right, let's move on to the NBA West. We talked about the NBA East last week. We gave our predictions. We were both in line with most of our picks. I think we both had the Milwaukee Bucks as the favorite to come out, correct? If healthy.
Yeah.
And then we had the Celtics, and then depending on what happens with Damian Lillard. But we're not going to talk about Damian Lillard this podcast. We're kind of gassed out on it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. With that said, let's go to the NBA West. We'll give our tiers and top teams that we think can make, and teams that we think it can make a jump. So let's start with the favorite. Not the favorite, but a team that obviously won last year. You live in Denver, as we know. And that is Nikola Jokic, Denver Nuggets. Obviously, they have Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, Brucey B left. But that was a pretty big loss, but I do believe they will prevail and find other ways. Remember, they also drafted some players in the first round to hopefully replace Bruce Brown and just be a deeper lineup. But for anyone who's on Instagram, we see a lot of posts about Nikola Jokic and his love for horses. It looks like he has not touched a basketball in 2 months, put the whole basketball thing away and just focuses on his life. Still in great shape by no means. But look, he's playing. He looks good. Jamal Murray is having the time of his life. He's walking up to UFC fights with some players and you got Bruce Brown playing at Obviously, he's not on the team anymore. But look, on paper, I still think they should be the favorite coming out the West. God forbid nothing happens injury-wise to them.
Yeah, they should be the favorites, Rob, but I don't think they're going to be as strong as they were in the last regular season, because losing Bruce Brown to Indiana hurts. He was a guy that can get you 10 to 15 points without a play run for him, and he could guard 3 to 4 possessions depending on the matchups. They also lost Jeff Green. He was as good as it got to, having a backup center because of his mobility. He was a lob threat, and defensively, he was very good because of his length at, deterring opposing players and, breaking inside the lane. He is now a Houston Rocket, and he's also going to be very missed in the locker room. He was like a stabilizer, like someone who's, set the temperature check. But as recently as last Friday, the Denver Nuggets lost a big player who was going to, or not one of their main guys, but he was going to be a big rotation player next year. His name is Vlatko Čančar. While playing with the Slovenian national team, he came down awkwardly on his left leg and tore his ACL. So you're going to miss him all of next year. And in the playoffs, he didn't get much time, but in the regular season, he was an emerging prospect as a 4-man who a little bit slow, but great instinct, setting up his teammates, very strong, a good rebounder, a screener, and someone who you just actively cut towards the basket. They have lost him. So here's the thing: they've lost some good players. They still have, a great group of main guys, but the priority number one with the Denver Nuggets, I think, is health. They've already shown that, they can go on the road and win. I know they were the first seed and they had home court advantage throughout the playoffs, but let's look at how they did this, Rob. They went to LA and they won two there. They won two in Miami. They won one in Minnesota and in Phoenix as well. So like, they don't need the home court advantage. They can, go on tour and get things done. What they're going to prioritize is, making sure Michael Porter Jr. is back and his legs are okay, that Jamal Murray, is fresh, and the same thing for Nikola Jokic, man.
Yeah, look, when I say win the favorites, I mean to win it all, not to win
No, of course.
not to win for the fans at home, not to win the division. I do believe that they're not going to finish as the number one overall seed in the West. I think going to the finals, winning the finals is very exhausting. Health is very important for the Nuggets and for every team, but especially the way that Denver's constructed. I think they could finish probably third or fourth seed, maybe second. I don't think there's any chance they finish as the number one overall team this year. Hey, I could be wrong. But look, they're talented. They have the best player in the world, the ultimate unselfish player. He could score 1 point or 100 points, and his attitude would be the same way. He's really the ultimate team player. And Jamal Murray has really taken leaps and bounds to be a great player. I think this year with Brucey B gone, Mateo, I think this is the year Michael Porter Jr. really has to put up or shut up. He signed that big deal 2 years ago. He's been very inconsistent in his career. He's shown that he could be a legitimate 3 option if he's right. He's very inconsistent, but when he's on, man. What do you think about Michael Porter Jr. really quick?
I think he's a really good dude. Early in the season last year, he was struggling a bit, and at times, truthfully, Rob, I thought they were better when they played more minutes with Bruce Brown, but he eventually hit his stride in the season, and he's not going to be a lockdown defender, but he's got good instincts and knows how to, maneuver his body to take away angles. But listen, like, the guy's going through a bit of some personal stuff off the court. I don't want to get into it. People can do their own homework, but listen, he is going to be they're going to depend on him a whole bunch. You're absolutely right. But here's the thing: we need to mention some guy who's specifically going to play the Bruce Brown role, Christian Brown.
Yeah, Christian Brown,
a champion from Kansas, who also a 3-time champion at the high school level. They were grooming him, through my eye, to replace Bruce all of last season. And, now that Bruce is gone, he's someone who actually even plays a lot like him. You don't need to run a lot of plays for him. He's so active, just moving around the perimeter and just cutting towards the basket in the half court. And defensively, he's very strong. So I really like Christian Brown on this team, and they're going to expect, probably a lot from Peyton Watson, the other rookie who's 6'7". So listen, they're going to be a good team. I can't see them falling below top 3 in the standings, but I think it's mostly going to be by design. They're not as deep, but listen, if they wanted to gas the horses and go for the 1 seed, they definitely could. It's just, I don't think it's their priority anymore.
Yeah. All right, another team in the West that's getting a lot of noise this year, who's been doing a pretty good job, is the Suns. They obviously signed those 3 big guys: Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. Those are the big 3 guys, and then obviously you have guys like DeAndre Ayton. The big noises around them is they really hinged their salary cap by going in for all those 3 guys, and they also DeAndre Ayton. But they did a pretty good job this offseason of really filling out the roster for what they had. They got guys like Eric Gordon, another guys that can really help them. Eubanks is another one. I think considering all things that happened to them, they've done a very good job surrounding the roster. And offensively, they're going to be tough to stop. Defensively is another question. Can Aiden take another step and be better? They hired Frank Vogel to be the head coach. He is very well known for being a defensive coach. He's done it at numerous stops. But I have my questions about their defense. So with that said, what do you think about that?
I think people have made too much of a big deal about Bradley Beal. being an unorthodox point guard. In 2018, Rob, this was the year that John Wall's injury started, like really coming back to him. And this was before he tore the Achilles. That season, Bradley Beal played 41% of his minutes at point guard. And I remember it even caused a little bit of a controversy because people
Yeah.
were thinking, are they better with Bradley as the lead guy? And, Marcin Gortat and John Wall kind of had like a little awkward little beef going on that year as a result of kind of a lot of this. But listen, the type of gravity that Durant and Booker are going to generate. Listen, Bradley Beal is going to be in single coverage 90% of the time, or actually 100% of the time, he shares the court with those guys. This is going to work offensively. As long as they don't fall into the ISO trap, this and they literally could just have to play read and react, or if they have set plays they want to run, but they can keep it simple without it sticking. And the type of weaponry they have is going to make it go. Defensively, I think they're a little better than you give them credit for, because Frank Vogel specifically runs like a drop heavy scheme. And in Indiana years ago, before LeBron ended Roy Hibbert's career by crashing into him, he was one of the elite defensive centers in the league. I know Anthony Davis can cover from everywhere, Rob, but the year the Lakers won the championship, they were playing a lot of drop under Frank. So I anticipate DeAndre Ayton having a career year on defense. Offensively, given the nature of who he's playing with, I don't think he's going to be scoring much more than what he has, unless like he goes crazier on the offensive boards and picks up his own baskets. But this is a team that they're the plug-in players that they got. Yuta Watanabe. That dude is a sniper who was so underutilized in Brooklyn. TJ Warren, if his foot ever gets right, he only played 42 games last year and at 7.5 minutes a night. If he gets right, they got a player in him. Listen, Eric Gordon, another guy who, didn't look too great in Houston, but when you're leaving guys in single coverage, or, a lot of the times they're going to be open too because of doubles and traps sent at Booker and Durant, they're going to look a lot better than they did in previous spots.
Yeah. You really hit the nail on the head on that. Like I said, they hired Frank Vogel to really be the defensive catalyst for that team. I think he's going to do a good job. I don't think anyone's ever going to question their offense at this point. I mean, you got Booker, who's arguably one of the best ISO scorers in the league now. Kevin Durant has taken a small step back, but when healthy, he's still elite. Bradley Beal as a third option is like, oh my God. And then Aiden's still there, and you have a bunch of other guys. It's really, can they mesh well in time for the playoffs, and can they stay healthy? That's really their two things. Last year we saw that in the playoffs, it was virtually Kevin Durant and Devin Booker against the Denver Nuggets. They did get a game, and they just couldn't finish it out. Or two games, I should say. Yeah, both in Phoenix, actually, I believe.
Yes,
so this year, will they take another step forward? DeAndre Ayton is maybe they could flip him at the trade deadline. We'll see. There's been rumors around him for the last 2 years, but I think that's a plus that Monty Williams is out and DeAndre Ayton's there. I think their relationship was reportedly getting really bad, so one of them had to go. But yeah, you said it, man. Let's get to another team. Well, I'll start with you. Which team would you like to talk about next that could make a lot of noise?
I'd be very surprised if you had this one. The Sacramento Kings. Okay, listen, I got a team very motivated by the embarrassment of losing a game 7 at home. I love the two-man action with Sabonis and Fox, because listen, they can kill you with speed, or they can kill you with power. Like specifically Sabonis with his back to the basket. And, when he's in the post, I love the sleight of hand dribble handoff action he can run with, the Fox just bursting like a bullet past him with the ball and just laying it up off the glass. They're spectacular. They have long range shooting. They also have a mid range threat in they also have mid range threat in Herter as well. But listen, I just like the weaponry they have, and Mike Brown. I think that this is a guy who really knows the pulse of his guys, man. So, like they're only gonna keep getting better, and last year, listen, the first, like I kind of think back to the Warriors of 2014. They lost a excruciatingly tough first round 7-game series to the Los Angeles Clippers, and then the next year, they came out like world beaters and ultimately won the championship. I'm not saying that the Sacramento Kings are going to do all of that, but like, listen, when you're on the verge and you lose, tough game sevens, those usually turn into the longest summers. I've heard of NBA legends talk about that, and De'Aaron Fox just strikes me as that type of player.
Yeah, the Kings were a very sexy pick last summer, and they did not disappoint. They made the playoffs for the first time in 16 years. Mike Brown won Coach of the Year, rightly so. They've done a great job. My thing with the Kings is I think they need one more piece. And we say that for a lot of teams, but I legitimately think the Kings need one more piece. De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis are one of the best duos in the NBA as far as working together. They can really get a lot of shots. De'Aaron Fox, by the way, has taken a massive step into superstardom. If he does what he did last year, I put him in that category. He was fantastic, played healthy. I believe he played with a broken finger in the Warriors series and still put up buckets.
Yeah.
So he did pretty well. I think they need one more guy, but I have to look at their transactions. But going into the season, they're gonna be a fun team to watch for sure. I don't know if they're ready to win. I don't know if they're ready to get to the Western Conference Finals, but if they can get to the second round like they did, I think that would be a pretty big win for the city of Sacramento.
No doubt for sure. But listen, Davion Mitchell is small at 6 feet, but he is one of the better point guard defenders in the league. This
Arguably the
man just
best. He's elite. I agree.
from Baylor, excellent. Keegan Murray is a sniper. One of the underrated additions of the summer was getting Nerlens Noel. He's a good shot blocker, a good screener. Gets
Former
his
number one
teammates
pick.
I think he was actually number 6. I think
Oh,
the
you're
reason
right. You're right. You're
I think he
right.
dropped because he tore his ACL. But
You're right.
still, he's still an impactful guy. The Kings have got Harrison Barnes coming back. Listen, they have the pieces. I just think it all falls now on Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. I believe De'Aaron is that type of guy. I really like Domantas Sabonis, but I still need to see a little bit more. But I am completely convinced that they're going to be one of the top 3 teams in the regular season for the West as of right now.
Yeah, very good point. I agree. I'm going to be honest, Mateo. I would not be surprised if they're number 1 overall seed. I'll tell you why. They play hard every night. Yeah. They have the roster and the players and the dedication to be the number 1 overall seed. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it wouldn't shock me. Because they play hard every night, and Coach and Mike Brown's not BS guy. All these other teams we talked about, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, I think the Nuggets are going to rest their players. I think there's going to be a lot of rest this year. But it could change because now in order to win awards, you need to play a minimum of 65 games. So I really don't know how it's going to pan out. But the Kings have players that would play every game or mostly every game. I mean, I don't think Sabonis is a player that strides me as a guy who would sit out just to sit out to rest up. But that's a good pick. Let's talk about the LA Lakers. Obviously, they're one of the most popular teams in the NBA. Last offseason, this time around, we were talking about if they can make the playoffs, and now we're talking about if they can go to the NBA Finals. They have quite a massive turnaround. They re-signed Austin Reeves. They have LeBron James. Obviously, they just re-signed Anthony Davis to a 3-year extension on top of what his deal now, which I'm very surprised they did that. He's a really good player, but his health, we'll talk about that for another day. His health concerns can really concern me. They got better in the offseason. They signed Rui Hachimura. They re-signed D'Angelo Russell. Missing a couple of pieces. But overall, the Lakers have done a very good job this offseason. And would not surprise me they get to the Western Conference Finals.
Yo, man, Gabe Vincent is a
terrific Gabe Vincent, yeah.
Combo guy. No, I didn't mean to throw him out there like that. But, like, listen, I just have respect for the guy because you could put him at like a backup shooting guard, backup point guard. He's going to play, or be just as impactful each night. Gabe Vincent had a great record as he's starting point guard. It was, what got him an $11 million salary or annually. I think it's about 3 years, $33 million, $11 million per average. But he is someone that's going to make the Lakers better. There's even noise about him, taking the starting point guard spot from D'Angelo. We'll see. We'll see.
Wouldn't
I'm
surprise
not
me
so
at all.
sure.
I actually think that's going to happen.
Like D'Angelo's pretty dynamic offensively. Also like he's got great vision. Passing like that would say a lot of bad things about his defense. Like Gabe Vincent was giving Jamal Murray fits in Game 2 of the NBA Final, when he also dropped like over 20 points in that game. So Gabe Vincent can ball, but listen, the Lakers are a good team. I'm not sure if I would put them as my fourth in record, because I think they're a group more geared or more built for the playoffs, because LeBron, I don't know how many games he's going to be rested. Like in year 21, it's amazing that he's playing at this level, and you want to extend that for as much time as possible. And obviously, the games that are the most meaningful, not to disrespect the paying fans, but what you were looking for is April through June. He was looking gassed against the Denver Nuggets, man. And the night he had like 33 in the first half, he would have needed like 60 or 70 to get them through the rest of the game. And it obviously wasn't going to happen. I would maybe have them around like 6 or 7, but they're going to be a competitive team. Austin Reeves is one of the guys competing for Team USA, who I think is going to come back like a much smarter player. Like the point we made earlier about being exposed to so many great guys. It's like being at the university and then you go home and you shock your parents with what you've learned. I think he'll have that effect on the Lakers, but I don't think I would put them this high. Not for number 4.
With that said, let's give our top 4 teams that we see finishing in the West this year, and then let's give one team that you think is going to make a big jump, or just going to be a fun team to watch, or whatever you want to say about that one team. So I'll give you the first dibs. Who are your top 4 that to finish off 2020 playoffs begin? They're in the top 4.
Well, I just got to add one because of the Nuggets, the Suns, and the Kings. My next one, and a lot of it is based off their health. It's the New Orleans Pelicans. Brandon Ingram is a fierce mid-range scorer, and at 6'9" with a lethal handle and all that length, he doesn't need very many steps, Rob, to get to the lane, or excuse me, get to the restricted area after the catch. I've heard a lot of guys say when you're defending him, he doesn't see you. Listen, this is the guy who is supposed to be Robin on that team. Then there's Zion Williamson. Goodness willing, he solved his personal issues, and his health. His health issues are also solved as well. I hope he starts working with the nutritionist he was working with last summer, because before he got hurt, that dude was looking real good. But they also got guys like Trey Murphy, who I think is like potentially a taller Desmond Bain. I really like that unit. Najee Marshall is fantastic, as a Swiss Army knife utility defender. But they're a team that I think is going to be one of the top teams in the West if their health allows it.
Yeah, man. Very well said. So repeat your top 4 again, really quick.
The Nuggets, the Suns, the Kings, and the Pelicans. Did you want like a surprise, like one of my breakout teams too?
We're gonna get to that in a second.
Okay,
so
sure.
My top 4, as it is right now, I do believe the Phoenix Suns will be the number 1 overall seed. I do believe the Denver Nuggets will be second. I actually have the Sacramento Kings third with you, and my 4th team is going to be the Golden State Warriors. They're going to run it back one more time. I believe this year they're going to put a little more emphasis on home court advantage, because we saw in the playoffs what it did for the Warriors last season. 90% of the games they won were at home, and they're a completely different team at home than on the road. So I do believe them to have another extra notch in their gear the next year. But those are my top 4, man: the Suns, the Nuggets, the Kings, and the Warriors.
It's so hard for me to evaluate the Warriors. I don't think Jordan Poole should have been the one to go. It should have been Draymond. Obviously they couldn't stay together. You'll probably get better results from Green now that like he doesn't have to worry about the guy that he punched, like or whatever. And I mean worry about because it seemed like through my eye, Rob, like when you'd watch the games, Draymond would um like in the huddles or whatever, like it would seem like he was trying too hard to keep the relationship alive. There's a lot of clips of like Jordan just like sitting stoically while he's getting like pats on the back from Draymond and not reacting. But the Warriors, like, Curry is still legit. Clay will never be the same defensively, but offensively, he will still have some great nights. Draymond talked about losing his confidence because he had to do so much less offensively when Kevin Durant came, and how he's starting to get it back. Hopefully they get it back for the team's sake, because I remember in Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals, that man was spectacular, and he hit like 5 of 7 3-point shots. Like they need Draymond Green to rediscover a lot of his offensive game for them to re-enter championship contention, especially with Jordan Poole out. Because listen, Jordan Poole was a young player, and during the regular season, they were one of the league leaders in pace, and in the playoffs, they didn't look very athletic against the Lakers. They looked kind of slow. And what you got back for Poole is a very older and slower player in CP3. There's other matchups that can make them look that bad.
Yeah. All right, the one team I cannot wait to watch this year. They're part of the reason why I want to get League Pass again. I know you know where I'm going, and I'm sure you're going to have the same answer as me. But how can it not be the OKC Thunder?
Yes. Yes.
You have SGA, who's really turned into a superstar. He plays for a small market. Like I said earlier, he's my pick for MVP this year. You have Chet Holmgren, who's finally healthy. He looked awesome in the summer league. Just a really good team, man. They're very well known for all the first round picks they have. They drafted a young guard out of Kentucky. They have one of my favorite players to watch in Jalen Williams, who was in the running for Rookie of the Year. Paolo Banchero won it, deservedly so. This team I think, is going to take a massive step forward this year. I would not be surprised if they're a 6 seed this year in the West. I have really high expectations for them. Their coach is great. They signed a contract extension. I can go on and on about them. Obviously, they have Lou Dort, the torture chamber, one of the best nicknames in the NBA. I love this team, man. I love watching them play. They always play hard. They got to the play-in. Very surprised a lot of people did that. Surprised a lot of people, I should say. And they almost won. They won the first game. They just couldn't win that second game. But Shea's a superstar. And when you have a superstar, man, anything's possible in the NBA. Would not surprise me at all. They're a 6 seed and finally clinch a playoff berth this year.
I really like them as well. One of the sleeper players on this team, former Gator, by the way, also played at Kansas State, Keontae Johnson. He's
That's right.
A small ball four who is kind of like a Swiss Army knife or moving around the elbow and inside of there. I like to see. I really liked when he would run a fake handoffs and dart directly to the basket. He's a very good player, but let's make no mistake about it. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the best shooting guard in the league, and I like him so much, Rob. I think he's a better player than Jason Tatum. Listen, he can get you 30 points without the 3-point shot even being a factor in his game. I think his footwork is not heralded enough. He is someone that the schemes are always programmed for stopping him. Josh Giddey, his backcourt mate, is a 6'8" point guard, man. These matchups are so much more difficult for the opponent to guard when your guys in the backcourt have forward like size, because they have more angles to pass. They're just also harder to stop because of their strength. But listen, Chet Holmgren, he's going to be a redshirt rookie. No doubt he learned a lot last year, but he's someone who definitely needs to get stronger. There's going to be a lot of matchups that he does not look great in defensively, but here's where I really like him. The dude's got great footwork and great vision. And here's the thing. I think because of his footwork, he's going to play a little bit like a forward. And, a lot of people are going to be surprised with some of the things Chet Holmgren can do when he, puts the ball on the floor. So that's a team that's great. Lou Dort is one of the best defenders in the world. I remember, I think it was in the bubble where he shut down James Harden at the end of a playoff game. It was, spectacular. They have both of the Jalen Williamses that are super impactful. No, best case scenario, they could be a 5 seed, and Gil just really does win this award. So I really love that pick because they got a lot of talent. And here's the thing, Rob, they got the cachet. Let's just say a superstar mid-season is like, man, I want out of here right now. The Oklahoma City Thunder could be like, we got the ammo to get you and get much better immediately.
And let me tell you, man, keep an eye on Carson Wallace from Kentucky. He's the guard they drafted. OKC is very good at guarding. In my opinion, he could sneakily win Rookie of the Year. He's a guy that I think could win 65 games. He's going to play 65 games this year. I don't know if they will allow him to have the ball as much as they want because they have a couple of options there. But if he gets a chance with the ball, I mean, he is going to be awesome. I really like him. I really like this team. Like you said, I think the ceiling for them right now is probably the 5th seed. But it would not surprise me if they get to the 6th. Like I said, they have a great foundation there. They have a great coach. They have a great GM. They have everything you want to be successful. They play in a small market, so none of their guys are going to go crazy. And by the way, shout out to Keontae Johnson for making the NBA. He has one of the best stories I've seen in sports. If you don't know, check it out. The guy almost died on a basketball court. Was given the option to take a $1 million insurance policy from the school. And ultimately, he gave that up to play at Kansas State. They made a run to the Elite Eight, and now he's in the NBA. Was one of the best players at Kansas State last year. So what a story, something to root for. But man, what a great team they're going to have this year.
I'm so foolish, man. How could I not mention the other former Gator, Trey Mann? Yeah, this dude. Look, what really impressed me about Trey Mann last season in the limited time I was able to watch the Thunder is his burst off of his first step. Rob, you got to see this. He does not need a screen to torch his one-on-one defender, and he's got a very good jump shot. He is someone who is, kind of like a microwave for this team. So they're deeper than you think.
Yep. Well said, man. All right. That's our West stuff. We'll talk about more of that later on as the season goes on. Let's talk about one last thing we have time for today, and that is the Orlando Magic. Mateo, I'm going to give you the floor. Explain to the audience what they gave a donation to and why you were bothered by it and why a lot of people around the league and really fans are bothered by this.
Well, Rob, they donated a whole bunch of money to the super PAC that is in support of Robert DeSantis' his presidential run. I reached out to the team because I specifically wanted to, get them on the record saying how it impacts their fans in the trans community because legislation by the DeSantis or DeSantis as governor has been passed that has made it very hard for trans people to live in Florida. This isn't a political issue. This is this is human rights business. Without getting into the restrictions into healthcare for children and adults, the thing that's super disturbing, Rob, about what the governor passed and ultimately the Magic donating to this guy is they banned the use of transgender people in public bathrooms. That's nuts. I think back to, because I'm a student of history, in the 1930s in Germany, they made it illegal for Jewish people to be in certain sections of the public square. I'm not saying the same thing is going to happen to trans people, but one of the first steps in the eradication of people, you should see how the legislatures on the right refer to them when they're trying to pass legislation. They refer to them as subhuman, and that again, those are one of the early steps when you're trying to get rid of people.
Yeah, man.
Um,
don't
uh,
really
uh, Go
go
on.
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Keep going. The floor is yours.
Oh, yes. And here's the thing. They never responded to my point about or my question about how it affects them. What they did respond to was um we get to be frank, we gave or I'm paraphrasing, they said they gave the donation to Robert DeSantis or to the PAC before Robert DeSantis announced his uh candidacy for the election, which they're trying to save face, but isn't really like, a credible excuse because listen, just because, they gave that donation a few days before DeSantis officially announced, I'm going to run for president. Everybody in the country who is remotely following politics knew this is what he wanted to do. So it's disgraceful because they're really giving the finger to their fans. Trans people like basketball too. This is really messed up, and the legislation that DeSantis has passed as governor, like, let's be real here, it's totally fascist, and it's very alarming because it's only getting worse in Florida if people aren't paying attention. And the Orlando Magic directly contributed to this garbage.
Yeah. I try not to get too much into politics and things going on around that, but I will say what they did was wrong. Makes no sense as to why they did it. Obviously, the Magic can do whatever they want their money, as they've shown. But the reason why I think a lot of people care about this is because you're right. Fans all over the world support different teams of different race, different backgrounds, different everything. And when you chime in money to a certain thing that hurts a certain group, people are going to be pissed off. And I just don't understand why the Orlando Magic says, and every team says, that they put their fans first every time they win a championship. And most importantly, this is to all the fans out there. We love you guys. But this was a selfish act. It shows that the NBA is indeed a business, and they will do what they can to better their organization and, more importantly, themselves before they really put the fans first. And this was not a fans first move. I can see why people are pissed off about it, but just bizarre.
Listen, the players union came out and said something, or rebuked this, of course. And DeSantis is such an idiot. He thought it was the NBA making a statement against it. No, it was the union. But here's the thing: I'm glad that the union did that because, like, it wasn't fair to them that the donation goes out as a representative of the entire Magic entity. Obviously, the board members decided this, but I'm sure, like, of course, maybe there's one or a few players, but guys in the most of the guys in the union, rebuked this, of course, like, as reported. But aside from that, what about the other people who work in the organization? At the custodial level, or the people who
Yep.
serve food, or the valets. This was terrible because you know it's just getting really hard for people who are trans live in Florida.
Yeah. Well said, man. I think you've done a good job. I think a lot of people will be proud of what you said.
Thank you.
Just a weird day for the Orlando Magic and why they chose to do this now. But hey, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. They can do what they want. With that said, Mateo, and to the fans at home, we are out of time, but we will talk about some WNBAs. We're still in the off season, but quickly give a shout out to anyone you want to give out, or any team in particular, or and that people should maybe catch or watch.
Right now, people should be watching the Las Vegas Aces, of course, are the greatest show on the court. And the other super team is the New York Liberty. Sabrina Ionescu, of course, Sabrina, she was lighting it up yesterday. She was 5 of 6 in the second quarter from 3-point range, cooking the people who are trying her for being on the 2K coverage. It was fabulous. So make sure you catch your WNBA. We'll be sure to talk about it more in the future.
Yeah, man. And also Aya Wilson. She's a beast.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, Mateo, like always, we'll be on. Like I said to the fans, we apologize. There's only so much content we could talk about, specifically about the NBA. But October is coming sooner than we think, and we'll have a lot to talk about then. But till then, see you next time, Mateo.
Peace.